Hi everyone. We're here today at Garrett Memorial Chapel on the bluff at Keuka Lake, and it's just such a magical place. And we just decided, since it was such a lovely autumn day, to come down to Keuka Lake and visit the chapel. And we used to actually have a cottage on Westlake Road near here, and I have visited here before but haven't been in a while, so just wanted to take advantage of the great autumn weather and visit the chapel. Wasn't that just a lovely little chapel that my son and I visited? It's called Garrett Chapel, and it's located on Keuka Lake in the Finger Lakes of New York, which are often compared actually to the Lochs of Scotland and the Lake District in England. I don't know if that's an accurate description because I haven't been to those places yet, but it's a gorgeous place nonetheless, especially as autumn starts to change the color of the leaves. It's just a really magical place. When you go there, you feel as though you're in a fairy tale. And the actual chapel is built on a bluff, so it's an outlay of land between two parts of the lake. So if you go out to the very tip of the bluff, you have lake on this side and lake on this side and lake straight ahead, and it's just breathtaking. So I was really glad to be able to film that footage and to bring you guys along with me. As you can see, we have some changes in the works here. I was lucky enough to find another white bookcase, both a full-size one that matches the one I already had and a half bookcase that I'm putting all of my TBR in. So I'm currently sort of rearranging all of my books. It's been super exciting. In an upcoming video, I'm going to ask you to go through all of the books that won't fit into my bookcase with me to decide which ones to keep and which ones to sell or donate, etc. But so that's been very exciting for me. It's been a lot of fun to figure out what to put on each shelf. And yeah, so, and the total cost of that project was $40 for the built bookcases and a ride to get them back to my house here. So good deal. Anyway, today I just wanted to share some of my pile of possibilities for this year's Victober 2023 read-along. And first up, I just wanted to let you know that I am participating in Kate Howe's 1860s book club, and I'll be speaking about a favorite Victorian poem of mine, Goblin Market by Christina Rossetti. So look for that in the coming weeks. And then additionally, I am considering quite a few things, but I'm going to definitely strictly narrow down the choices this week because I'm still reading The Winthrop Woman, which is a 600-page novel by Anya Seton, which I mentioned last time. And so, you know, the thought of reading some huge tomes in October and November, as thrilling as that might be, not sure if it's all that realistic. So we'll see which of these I get to, but I am excited about all of them and can't wait to share them with you. The first title is The Warden by Anthony Trollope, and I've heard mixed things about this. I've heard it's not Anthony Trollope's best work in terms of it being the first book in the Barchester Chronicles. You know, I want to get it under my belt. I know it's not everybody's favorite. It's apparently a bit different in tone. Not a lot happens in it. I do know that it is about a warden at a church in the fictitious church town of Barchester, and he is accused of misappropriating funds that have been gifted to him, and he's accused by his future son-in-law, so that makes it sort of interesting as well. So it really deals with the ethics and morals of the day and introduces us to the world of Barchester. So I just want to say that I have read something by Trollope and that I started the Barchester Chronicles. Or the Chronicles of Barchester, I guess is what it's called. So we'll see. I may listen to this one on Audible. I have all of the Trollope on Audible, so I could easily pop that on when I'm driving, or I can read this. It's not that big of a book. So another novel that I'm considering reading during the month of October, or Victober, is North and South, of course, by Elizabeth Gaskell. 19-year-old Margaret Hale goes to live in a smoky town called Milton. She finds it harsh and strange. She's upset by its poverty, and she meets the influential manufacturer John Thornton, master of Marlborough Mills, and she sees him as coarse and unfeeling, and he sees her as haughty. Nevertheless, sparks begin to fly, and she begins to admire how he has risen from poverty, and the story goes on from there. I've read a few works by Elizabeth Gaskell, and I've been wanting to get North and South read for about 4 years now, and every Victober I swear I'm going to read it, and for some reason I'm just daunted by the first few chapters of it, and it just doesn't really appeal to me, and everyone is nuts about this novel, and so I'm bound and determined to trudge ahead with it and find out what's so wonderful about it, and I'm hoping that I'm going to absolutely love it and that I will completely change my mind about North and South. We'll see. I have 2 works of nonfiction that I'm really excited about for the month of October, and the first is The Five by Hallie Rubenhold, and this is a book about the untold story of the women killed by Jack the Ripper. So I know this was maybe the group read last year or one of the group reads last year. And so I'm really interested to read about the lives of Polly, Annie, Elizabeth, Catherine, and Mary Jane, and about telling their stories and saying their names. So I'm really looking forward to the 5. And additionally, I had purchased Antonia Fraser's The Case of the Married Woman. And this is the story of Caroline Norton, a 19th century heroine who wanted justice for women. Look at this picture on the back here. Absolutely beautiful. This has been definitely my year for reading Antonia Fraser biographies, and I've loved every single one that I've read. This one I'm hoping will be no exception. I'm interested to learn about marriage and the place of women in society during the reign of Victoria. And, it talks about gaining your freedom, being denied access to your children, the concept of divorce at a time when everything was hushed up and certain things just weren't done. So the social mores of the time. So I'm really interested in learning about all of that through the story of Caroline Norton. And then, of course, it would not be Victober, nor would it be my autumnal bedside table if I didn't have at least one volume of short stories about Sherlock Holmes. And, some people love Sherlock Holmes, some people don't like Sherlock Holmes. I didn't used to be such a fan, but ever since I recently rewatched the Granada television series starring Jeremy Brett, I've absolutely loved it. And this volume of the Illustrated Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I picked up recently along with several other books at Barnes & Noble. And this was one of those $10 specials that you find in the entranceway to the store. And normally I skip by those and don't buy those sorts of editions, but these I really love. If you look through them, first of all, look at the end pages. Beautiful. They contain a lot of the vintage artwork from the old stories. And look at this. It's a watercolor of the train station. Let me see if I can find some good ones to show you here. Of course, there's a street scene that's sketched, and that's some of the original, I think, from the Strand illustrations. Look at this. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I'm particularly interested in reading Scandal in Bohemia and The Red-Headed League. I think those two stories are quite autumnal in feeling. They just give me all of the October and Victorian vibes. So I'm really looking forward to reading some of these stories. Beautiful, beautiful. And I can't wait. I love Sherlock Holmes. What can I say? And if you're interested in Sherlock Holmes, but you don't necessarily want to read the stories, there are some great audible renditions of these. There's a bunch of different people who present them, and they all do a fine job. But the ones I'm really into right now are narrated by Edward Hardwicke, who actually plays Watson in the Granada television series with Jeremy Brett. So it's just so fun because to me that's the voice of Dr. Watson. So it's fun to have him narrating the tales. And then I also picked this up at a recent library sale. This is Tales of Mystery and Imagination by E.A. Poe, Edgar Allan Poe. And this was actually kind of like a Book of the Month Club sort of thing in the 1940s. It has some pretty strange illustrations in it, but I find them fascinating. There's one. That's from The Gold Bug. Let me see if I can find some other ones to show. The Oblong Box. So, yeah. So this is a really interesting edition of Tales of Mystery and Imagination. And I've always liked the stories of Edgar Poe, but I think what brought them to my attention most recently was, well, two things. One was watching, I think it was on Netflix, it was The Pale Blue Eye, and it starred Christian Bale. It was about Edgar Allan Poe's years at West Point, and in this he acts as a sort of assisting detective. And it also has one of the best acting transformations I have ever seen in my life, and that was Harry Melling, who played Dudley Dursley in the Harry Potter movies. He plays Edgar Poe, and wow, do you think he's Edgar Allan Poe? I mean, he is absolutely spot on, perfect. And the art direction of Pale Blue Eye is fantastic. There's this sort of blue cast over the snow and, you know, the frozen winter time at West Point as they try to solve murders that are happening, very grisly murders. The problem is that the last 10 minutes were horrid. I don't know why they chose to go in that direction at the last second, but it was such a fantastic movie all the way through, and they almost made it to the end, and then it took this kind of really unbelievable turn and kind of lost its plausibility and got a little bit silly and melodramatic. And it just really broke my heart that they did that, because they almost got all the way through it and it was almost like a 10 out of 10 movie, and then I don't know why, but at the end it just got really, really silly. So except for the last 10 minutes, you really should watch The Pale Blue Eye with Harry Melling and Christian Bale. And then finally, I know not everyone who loves Victober is a fan of the show on PBS, Victoria, but I love PBS and Masterpiece companion editions, and this was at my local thrift shop. They were selling it for $5.99, and then it was 20% off day. So, and it's in like basically new condition, so how could I resist? And I also have the one that goes along with Sanditon, so I'm getting kind of a series of these companion volumes, so why not? And, you know, this just sort of goes through and tells you about life in the Victorian era. And I don't know if it's all completely accurate about Queen Victoria or about Albert, but I think the story that interested me more than any other was Mr. Francatelli, who was the chef, and about the lord's grooms and maids of honor and bedchamber women and all of that. So that's really what I bought this for, was to learn about that. So why not? You know, it ended up being like, you know, $4 or something like that. So I got that just as a sort of an add-on. I'll definitely be making a decision about which novel I'll be reading for Victober. I am going to try to get to both North and South and The Warden. I know that Katie Lumsden from Books and Things has her Dickens mega readathon going on, And I would love to participate in that with David Copperfield, which is her next book coming up in October and November. I may listen to that. I sort of wish she was doing Great Expectations because that's the one my heart wants to read rather than David Copperfield. For some reason, whenever I pick up a copy of David Copperfield in the bookstore, I'm just not feeling for it the way I feel like I should in order to commit to such a chunky monkey of a book. But so I sort of wish it was Great Expectations because I haven't read that since high school and I would love to give that one another go. So maybe I will not get to Dickens this October, but I definitely want to get to the Gaskell and the Trollope, and then some Poe and some Doyle and some other things. So we shall see. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope you're enjoying your autumn thus far and that you're reading something really wonderful. Tell me what you're reading in the comments below, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.